Hello and welcome to tonight's Ghostly Tale. Tonight's Ghostly Tale comes from the Sunderland Empire, and it is said that the Sunderland Empire has at least two ghosts. The first ghost is of a young woman by the name of Molly Mussell, whose real name was Mary Buslam. She was a 33-year-old part-time actress and also assistant stage manager. She was on. She was working with the production of Ivor Novel's The Dancing Years, and she was staying at digs at Eden Street, which was just behind the theatre. On the evening of the 14th of January 1949, Molly had left her digs and she had told her landlady that she was going to deliver a letter for the show's leading role, Bury Sinclair. She left her digs, walked down the street, and she was last seen by another production worker who saw her going down the alleyway which led to the Garden Palace. Molly was never seen again. The police did do a search. The police did do a search for her, a nationwide search, and there was reports of sightings of her which came from Liverpool, London, and Sheffield, but she was never seen again. 21 years later, a body washed up on the bank of the River Wear, and after a post-mortem was done, it was said that the body was of a woman from at least 25 to 50-year-old, and she had been dead for a long time. It was said that this body could well have been Molly's, but this was never proven because at the time there was no DNA testing. The ghost of Molly is seen in two areas in the theatre. The first one is the male toilets, which is just outside of the sitting area of the main stage. A few years ago, when the Technicolor Dreamcoat was on at the Sunderland Empire, a young 10-year-old boy from London was up with his family to see the show. He'd gone to the toilet, and when he came out, he told his mum he'd been talking to a woman in the toilets who said that she worked there and her name was Molly. The mother inquired to one of the theatre staff about this Molly, but the staff said that there was nobody by the name of Molly working in the theatre. Another area what Molly is said to be seen in is the galleries or the gods. Many people who book these seats report that when they are sitting down, they feel a presence behind them, and when they turn around, they see a grey lady either sitting or standing just behind them. As they look, this grey lady just disappears. Now, the second ghost that is seen in the area is of the famous actor and comedian Sid James. Sid James was in a performance at the Empire of the mating season. It was the opening night on April the 26th, 1976, when he was on stage with the leading lady and he collapsed. He'd had a heart attack. The stage manager rushed on stage and asked if there was a doctor in the house. At first, the crowd thought this was part of the act and were laughing, but eventually a doctor did come up and tried to help Sid James with CPR. An ambulance was called, but sadly Sid James died on the way to hospital. Now, his ghost is said to haunt the dressing room wall, and his familiar laugh is often heard in the room. The Empire workers I've many times passed dressing room 1 and heard a laugh from inside. Or they may well be working inside the room and hear the laugh. They say it is the distinctive laugh of Sid James. In 1989, Les Dawson was doing a pantomime at the Sunderland Empire, and he was in dressing room 1. As he was getting ready for his performance as the pantomime dame, he heard the very familiar laugh of Sid James, and when he looked in the mirror, just sitting to the left of him, he could see Sid James, but he described him as not looking very well. Straight away, Les Dawson went and asked if he could change dressing room, which the Empire staff obliged, and he did change dressing room. He said that once the pantomime was finished, he would never come back to the Sunderland Empire because of the fright he got there. So, if you ever go to the Sunderland Empire, maybe book the gallery or the gods, and you may see the Grey Lady. Or, if you were lucky enough to be walking past dressing room 1, you may well hear the very distinctive laugh of Sid James as he enjoys the comedy of the theatre.